In the vastness of space, where stars burn brighter than hope, one woman will rise above all odds. She's not just a soldier, she's humanity's last chance. Against impossible odds, she wields forgotten power to shatter chains and rewrite destiny. But at what cost? Brace yourselves for a tale of rebellion, sacrifice, and triumph against tyranny. This is no ordinary war. This is survival. Subscribe now for more epic stories like this one. Click that bell icon before you go. It might just save your life. The ship drifted silently through the void, its hull pockmarked by centuries of wear. Inside, Captain Alara Voss stood at the helm, her hands steady despite the chaos raging around her. The year was 2478, but the universe felt older, heavier, as though it carried secrets too dangerous to share. Alara adjusted her gloves, their metallic weave catching the faint glow of the control panel lights. Her reflection stared back, a face marked by determination, framed by short black hair streaked with gray at the temples. "Status report," she commanded, her voice cutting through the hum of the engines. "Stabilizing trajectory," replied Lieutenant Kale, his tone calm yet tinged with urgency. "We're approaching the outer rim of the Aurelian system." Still no sign of pursuit. Alara nodded, though her mind raced faster than ever. They had stolen something priceless, something that could tip the balance of power across entire galaxies. And now, every moment brought them closer to discovery and destruction. The Aurelian Empire ruled with an iron fist, its tendrils stretching across countless worlds. Its ruler, Emperor Thaler, demanded absolute obedience, crushing any dissent underfoot. Resistance movements existed, whispers of rebellion scattered across the stars, but they were scattered, fragmented, powerless. Until now. "What about the beacon?" Alara asked, her gaze fixed on the viewport. Beyond lay the swirling chaos of the nebula, a kaleidoscope of colors hiding dangers unseen. Kale hesitated, then spoke. "It's intact. We've encrypted it twice over, but there's something else. A signal buried deep within the data stream." "A signal?" Alara turned sharply, her sharp blue eyes narrowing. "From who?" "We don't know yet. It's encrypted beyond our current capabilities." Alara cursed softly under her breath. Whoever had planted that signal knew exactly what they were doing. If the Empire discovered it, it would mean death, not just for them, but for everyone connected to it. "Keep monitoring it," she ordered. "If it's hostile, we'll deal with it. If it's friendly," she paused, letting the weight of the words hang in the air, "then we'll decide whether we trust them." As the ship plunged deeper into the nebula, Alara couldn't shake the feeling that their journey had only just begun. Somewhere out there, a storm brewed, one that threatened not only their lives, but the very existence of humanity itself. The interior of the ship buzzed with activity as engineers worked feverishly to repair damage sustained during their escape. Alara moved between stations, her presence commanding respect without demanding it. Each crew member knew better than to waste time on idle chatter when she was near. "Captain," called Engineer Mira, a petite woman with wiry arms covered in grease smudges. "I think I found something interesting in the maintenance logs." Alara approached, leaning over Myra's shoulder to peer at the holographic display floating above the console. Rows of numbers scrolled endlessly, each representing vital systems throughout the vessel. "What am I looking at?" Alara asked, her brow furrowed. Mira pointed to a section highlighted in yellow. "These readings, they don't match anything we've encountered before. It's almost like someone tampered with the ship's core protocols." Alara frowned. "Who would do that?" "That's the thing," Mira said, glancing up briefly. "There's no trace of anyone physically accessing the system. Whatever happened, it wasn't done manually." Alara straightened, her instincts kicking into high gear. "Do you think it could be related to the signal?" "I wouldn't rule it out," Mira admitted. "But if so, whoever did this knows more about this ship than anyone alive today." Alara exhaled slowly, rubbing her temples. "Get me everything you have on those logs. Cross-reference them with everything we know about the signal." "Yes, ma'am." Mira saluted smartly before returning to her work. Meanwhile, Kale entered the bridge carrying a small device. "Captain, I've been analyzing the signal further. There's definitely something unusual about it." Alara took the device from him, studying the interface. "What makes it different?" "For starters, it's not encoded using standard Aurelian encryption methods," Kale explained. "It's older, much older, and there's a pattern to it, an almost rhythmic pulse that repeats every few seconds." Alara frowned. "Like a heartbeat?" "Exactly," Kale confirmed. "And here's the kicker. The signal isn't coming from anywhere specific. It seems to be broadcasting everywhere simultaneously." Alara felt a chill run down her spine. Whoever or whatever had sent this message clearly didn't want to be found easily. But why? What purpose could such a signal serve? Deep within the ship's hidden compartments lay the object of their mission, a sealed container wrapped in layers of protective shielding. Alara had risked everything to retrieve it, knowing full well the consequences should they fail. Now, as she stood before it, her heart pounded with anticipation. "Open it," she instructed, her voice firm despite the butterflies fluttering in her stomach. A nearby technician activated the release mechanism, and the container hissed open. Inside lay a collection of artifacts unlike anything anyone had seen before. There were crystalline structures emitting soft luminescence, strange devices resembling tools but bearing no visible function, and even fragments of what appeared to be ancient writing etched onto metal surfaces. This is incredible," whispered Mira, stepping closer. "I've never seen anything like it." Alara reached inside, carefully lifting one of the crystals. It pulsed gently in her palm, sending waves of warmth through her fingers. "This feels alive," she murmured. "Alive," Kale echoed, his skepticism evident. "Not literally," Alara corrected herself, "but it's sentient. Or at least it seems to respond to thought." She closed her eyes, focusing intently. To her surprise, images began flooding her mind, visions of sprawling cities, bathed in golden light, towering structures carved from living stone, and beings unlike any species she'd ever encountered. They communicated not through speech, but through shared understanding, their thoughts flowing seamlessly between them. "What are you seeing?" Kale asked, concern lacing his tone. Alara opened her eyes, shaken but exhilarated. "They're calling themselves the Architects," she said finally. "They built this entire galaxy, and more, and they left behind these artifacts as guides." "Guides," Mira repeated, confusion written across her features. "They're meant to help us unlock the secrets of the universe," Alara continued. "But they also warn of danger. Great danger." Kale exchanged a glance with Mira. "Danger from what?" Alara hesitated, her expression darkening. "From ourselves. From the choices we make or fail to make." As days passed, the crew delved deeper into the mysteries contained within the artifacts. Slowly, pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. The Architects had foreseen a future where humanity faced extinction unless drastic measures were taken. Their solution involved harnessing the power of the artifacts themselves, a task neither simple nor safe. Alara convened a meeting in the briefing room, her eyes scanning the faces of her closest allies. "We need to act quickly," she declared. "The Empire won't stop hunting us. Once they discover what we've taken, they'll come after us with everything they have." "But what exactly are we supposed to do with these things?" Kale challenged. "Sure, they're impressive, but how do they help us fight the Aurelian Empire?" Alara held up the crystal once more. "Because they aren't just tools, they're keys. Keys to unlocking abilities none of us can imagine." "And what happens if we mess up?" Mira interjected. "What if we trigger something catastrophic instead of saving anyone?" "That's a risk we'll have to take," Alara admitted. "But think about it. If we succeed, we don't just defeat the Empire, we free humanity forever." Her words hung heavy in the air, resonating with each member present. For the first time in years, hope flickered to life within their hearts. The Aurelian fleet loomed ominously ahead, its ships forming an impenetrable blockade. Alara clenched her fists, staring at the monoliths of steel and plasma fire. "Prepare for battle," she barked. Every gun online. Maintain formation. The ship shuddered as weapons discharged, unleashing torrents of energy toward the enemy. Shields flared brilliantly, absorbing blow after blow. "Captain, we're taking heavy damage," shouted Kale over the commotion. "Keep firing," Alara yelled back. "Don't let them get close." Amidst the chaos, Alara activated one of the artifacts, feeling its energy surge through her veins. Colors danced across her vision, and suddenly, she understood. Understanding bloomed like wildfire, illuminating paths previously obscured. With newfound clarity, she issued orders, guiding her crew toward victory. Step by step, they chipped away at the blockade until finally, the last ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light. Back aboard their battered vessel, Alara gathered her team. The ship groaned beneath her feet, its walls scorched and trembling from the relentless barrage they had endured. Smoke curled lazily through the corridors, mingling with the acrid tang of burnt circuits and ozone. Despite the chaos, Alara's posture radiated command. Her shoulders squared, her jaw set firmly, she addressed her crew with unwavering resolve. "We did it," she announced, her voice steady despite the fatigue etched into her face. "But our work isn't done. The Empire still exists, and they'll regroup. We must prepare ourselves for the next phase." "What's next?" asked Mira, her voice tinged with both curiosity and apprehension. Alara stepped forward, her eyes locking onto hers. "To bring down the Empire once and for all." The room fell silent, the gravity of her words sinking in. No one dared speak, knowing the enormity of what she proposed. The Aurelian Empire was a leviathan, entrenched across countless star systems, its tendrils tightening around every corner of human civilization. To challenge it head-on seemed suicidal, but Alara had never been one to shy away from impossible odds. "You mean directly attacking their central command?" Kale ventured cautiously. "That's suicide." "It won't be easy," Alara agreed, her tone unyielding. "But we've already proven that the impossible can become possible. Now we take the fight to them." "Taking on the Empire directly isn't just risky. It's reckless," argued Mira, shaking her head. "Even if we manage to reach their central command, how do we ensure success? How do we even begin dismantling something so massive?" Alara paused, her expression softening slightly. She turned to face the others, her gaze sweeping across their faces. "Because we don't have a choice," she said simply. "The Empire won't stop hunting us. They'll destroy everything we care about. Not just us, but everyone who dares stand against them. If we want to survive, if we want humanity to live freely, then we must strike at the heart of their power." The silence stretched on, broken only by the distant hum of the ship's systems. Then slowly Kale nodded. "All right," he said gruffly. "Let's hear your plan." Alara exhaled, relief washing over her features. She motioned for everyone to gather closer, pulling up a holographic projection of the Aurelian Empire's structure. Lines of light traced the connections between planets, fleets, and installations, forming a web so intricate it looked almost organic. "Their central command is located on Thaler Prime," she explained, pointing to a pulsing node at the center of the diagram. "It's heavily guarded, protected by layers upon layers of defenses. But there's a way in." "A way in?" Mira repeated skeptically. "Through what? A wormhole? A secret passage?" "No," Alara replied, her voice firm. "Through knowledge. Through the artifacts." She held up the crystal again, watching as it emitted its characteristic glow. "These objects aren't just tools, they're blueprints. They hold the answers to how the Empire operates, how it maintains its grip on humanity. If we understand them fully, we can exploit their weaknesses." "How long will that take?" Kale asked bluntly. "We don't have weeks or months to study them. The Empire will catch up soon." "I know," Alara admitted, "which is why I've already started. These past few days, I've been piecing together fragments of information. The architects designed these artifacts to guide us, not just technologically, but morally. They showed me visions of what could happen if we misuse their gifts. And they gave me instructions." She paused, taking a deep breath. Instructions on how to use the artifacts to create a weapon capable of disabling the Empire's entire infrastructure. A weapon, Mira echoed, her skepticism giving way to awe. What kind of weapon? One that doesn't rely on brute force, Alara answered. One that targets their reliance on fear and control. One that can shatter the chains they've placed on humanity without shedding a drop of blood. The crew exchanged glances, each processing the implications of her words. Creating such a weapon would require precision, ingenuity, and sacrifice. But if it worked, all right, Kale said finally, breaking the silence. Let's do it. Days turned into nights as Alara threw herself into deciphering the artifact's secrets. The ship became her sanctuary, her laboratory, her battlefield. Around her, the crew worked tirelessly, providing support whenever needed. Mira assisted with calculations, Kale coordinated logistics, while other members kept watch over the perimeter, ensuring their fragile peace remained undisturbed. Alara sat cross-legged in the heart of the ship, surrounded by floating holograms displaying complex schematics and diagrams. The crystal rested in her lap, its glow pulsing rhythmically in sync with her heartbeat. She closed her eyes, focusing inward, letting the artifact's energy flow through her. Images flooded her mind, vivid, detailed, overwhelming. Structures collapsing under invisible pressure. Cities rising anew from ashes. People smiling freely for the first time in centuries. Are you okay? Kale's voice interrupted her reverie. He stood nearby, concern etched into his features. I'm fine, she assured him, opening her eyes. Just processing. Kale nodded, understanding dawning on his face. Need anything? More time, Alara replied, her lips curling into a faint smile. And maybe some coffee. Strong stuff. He chuckled, retreating to fetch supplies. Meanwhile, Mira approached, holding a tablet filled with notes. Captain, I've been going over your initial findings, she began. There's something here I don't quite understand. This section about quantum resonance fields. It doesn't make sense. Alara took the tablet, scanning the text. Quantum resonance fields, she murmured. That's what the architects called it. It's essentially a field of energy that interacts with matter at a subatomic level. Think of it as a bridge between the physical and the metaphysical. Mira blinked, clearly overwhelmed. So, you're saying we're talking about bending reality itself? In a manner of speaking, Alara confirmed. But not blindly. The architects warned us about the risks. Misusing this power could destabilize entire star systems, or worse, unravel the fabric of existence itself. Mira paled. And yet, you still want to proceed. Because there's no other way, Alara said firmly. The Empire thrives on fear and control. They feed off human suffering, using it to maintain their dominance. If we can disrupt that cycle, if we can show people that they don't need to live in fear anymore, that's when true change begins. Mira sighed, nodding reluctantly. All right, let's see what you've got. Over the following hours, Alara worked feverishly, channeling the artifact's energy into experiments. At first, the results were subtle, tiny fluctuations in the ship systems, brief moments of instability. But gradually, the changes grew more pronounced. By the time they reached Thaler Prime, the weapon was ready. It wasn't a traditional bomb or missile. It was something far more insidious. A single pulse of energy, carefully calibrated to resonate across the Empire's network of fear and control. The attack came swiftly and unexpectedly. As the ship descended toward the planet's surface, Alara activated the weapon, releasing its payload into the atmosphere. The effect was immediate and devastating. Communications networks collapsed, propaganda broadcasts faltered, and soldiers dropped their weapons in confusion. But the real impact came later. When the dust settled, the Empire lay fractured, its grip on humanity slipping away. Cities erupted in celebration, their inhabitants emerging from hiding to reclaim their freedom. For Alara, however, victory tasted bittersweet. She had achieved her goal, but at great personal cost. The strain of wielding the artifact had taken its toll, leaving her exhausted and vulnerable. In the aftermath of the battle, Elara found herself reflecting on the price of freedom. While humanity celebrated its newfound liberty, she wrestled with doubts about whether they were truly ready to govern themselves. Yet, amidst the uncertainty, there was hope. Hope born from the resilience of the human spirit and the promise of a brighter future. Years passed, and Elara's name became synonymous with liberation. Stories of her bravery spread across the stars, inspiring countless individuals to stand up for justice. Though she eventually retired, her legacy endured, reminding generations that even in the darkest times, hope could prevail. As the dust settled and the Empire's hold weakened, Elara realized that their work was far from over. The Aurelian Empire, though fractured, still lingered like a festering wound, threatening to poison the galaxy anew. The threat of resurgence loomed large, and Elara knew that complacency could undo all they had accomplished. "We need to finish this," she declared to her closest advisors, her voice resolute. "The Empire may have lost its central command, but it's not defeated. Its roots run deep, and if we don't sever them entirely, they'll regrow stronger than ever." Mira nodded thoughtfully. "But how do we do that? Thaler Prime is just one piece of the puzzle. The Empire has countless holdings, planets, and fleets scattered across the galaxy. Taking them all down will require resources we don't have." Elara leaned back in her chair, her expression thoughtful. "Not all at once. We focus on the most critical targets, the choke points, the supply lines, the strongholds that keep the Empire functioning. If we hit them hard enough, we can cripple their ability to rebuild." Kale frowned. "And what about retaliation? The Empire won't go quietly. They'll strike back with everything they've got." "Then we fight smarter," Elara countered. "We've already shown them that brute force isn't always the answer. We can win this without losing ourselves in the process." The plan took shape over the following weeks. Elara assembled a coalition of resistance groups, each bringing unique strengths to the table. Some provided intelligence, others supplies, and still others manpower. Together, they formed a network of cells, operating independently but sharing resources and strategies. Each operation was meticulously planned, executed with precision. Strike teams infiltrated key installations, sabotaging infrastructure and stealing valuable data. Ships launched coordinated assaults on isolated outposts, weakening the Empire's outer defenses. And all the while, Elara stayed one step ahead, anticipating counterattacks and preparing contingency plans. Despite their successes, cracks began to appear in Elara's resolve. The strain of leading such a massive effort weighed heavily on her, and the constant threat of betrayal gnawed at her trust. "Captain," Mira said one evening, interrupting her pacing, "I think we need to talk." Elara stopped, turning to face her friend. "About what?" "About you," Mira replied gently. "You've been pushing yourself too hard. You're running on fumes, and it shows." Elara sighed, running a hand through her hair. "I can't afford to slow down, Mira. Not now." "I'm not asking you to," Mira countered. "I'm asking you to trust us, to let us help carry the load. You're not alone in this, remember?" Elara stared at her, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I know," she whispered. Sometimes it feels like the weight of the galaxy rests on my shoulders." Mira smiled softly. "Well, maybe it does, but you're not carrying it alone. We're here with you." Months passed, and the tide began to turn. The Empire's grip weakened further, its once impenetrable network of power splintering under the relentless assault. Resistance movements flourished, growing bolder and more organized. Elara watched from afar, her heart swelling with pride and relief. Yet, even as victory seemed within reach, shadows of doubt lingered. Had they done enough? Would humanity truly embrace freedom, or would old habits die hard? On the eve of what would likely be their final major offensive, Elara addressed her crew one last time. "Tomorrow we end this," she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil within her. "But know this, the fight doesn't end here. True freedom requires vigilance, sacrifice, and courage. Carry that with you always." Her words hung in the air, resonating deeply with those who heard them. As dawn broke, the final assault began, marking the beginning of the end for the Aurelian Empire. When the dust settled, the galaxy stood transformed. Cities rebuilt themselves, cultures blended, and humanity began to heal. Alara watched from a distance, her heart full of hope and pride. Subscribe now for more stories of resilience and triumph.